From his 60-plus-year-old house in the lake section to books, newspapers, and other memorabilia, which he collects and collects and collects. Right, Richter?
Yes.
He has served on the Broward County Historical Commission, and his role as a member was to advise the Broward County Commissioners on granting historical status to buildings and other properties. Victor and I go back too many years to mention from the legal field. And it was through his profession that he developed friendships with many of his clients. Several belonged to the Hollywood Historical Society, and that's how he became part of the Historical Society, and he does pro bono work for us. Thank you again. As an attorney who specializes in guardianship and probate matters, he was the guardian for and executor for Clarence Hammerstein, so he has a lot of information to share with us. He moved with his family at the age of 6 months from Bergen County, New Jersey. And growing up here, he always had a deep interest in things from the past. His mission is to preserve history so that future generations can learn about how our pioneers started this area and maintained it. And now I will give the meeting over to Victor.
Oh, thank you. I've already been out hugging and kissing everyone. So. Hi, Deborah. Thank you for coming. Hi, Terry. Thank you.
Victor, are they going to give you a mic so we can hear you?
Yeah, I have one attached to me. It's the first
No,
time.
that's for the camera only, sorry.
Oh, okay. I could probably walk around and, you know, I can't mention you all by name because you're all famous and you're all celebrities, and thank you all for being here. But I have my mom and my dad, Lonnie and Vic DeBianchi. Carol Winters, she built her house, you may remember. And they were very, very instrumental when Ham passed away in cleaning and restoring this house. And we'll get into that in a little while. My sister Lonnie and my brother-in-law Gordon James are here. And I won't go any further, Miss Johns, Molina's, where my mother took my sister about 55 years ago. I won't say any more than that, if you know what I mean. But
What do you buy?
her first, well, I won't say it. And oh God, it's such an honor and such a pleasure. We have Commissioner Biederman, Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Deborah Case, and her husband Terry are here. And they are doing a great job for the city. And Deborah, I am not running again. So you have my friendship and my vote. And Deborah's doing a great job, and she's a great asset. Okay, I'm going to come back and forth. If you want, I can have a microphone.
Please.
Do we have one?
I don't think so.
All right, then I'll just talk loud. I'm Italian descent, so I can talk very loud. We have some other dignitaries here and that are going to be arriving. My dear friends Valerie and Kevin. Valerie is on the board of directors, of course. Chris and Connie Nielsen. Chris is a past president of the Broward Bar Association, along with me. Oh, Mr. Bob Guyson himself. Born in Hollywood.
Die in Hollywood.
Thank you, Bob, for coming. And it really is a blessing. Oh my God, I am so excited to be here. I hardly slept last night. Thank you all for coming. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the city of Hollywood and a lot about Ham Hammerstein. But I want to thank Karen. I mean, thank you so much for the beautiful introduction, for taking your time to be the president, for doing everything you're doing for the Hollywood Historical Society. And all the officers and the board of directors who are here also, thank you for everything. keep doing it as long as you can, because when you're done doing it, I guess I'll have to start doing it. So please keep it up as long as possible.
Is that an offer?
And yeah, I guess it is an offer. And Karen said it was too long to go back, but I'll give you a little bit of a hint. It was the 1970s. So, and we were having a little trivia contest. Who was born in Hollywood? No, there wasn't a hospital. You were born in Broward General. Chris was born.
My parents lived in Hollywood. My hospital was closed that night.
Right. That is true.
Hollywood Hospital downtown.
Oh, it was, which was Doctor's Hospital, which is now Vencor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Dr. McLaury.
Oh my God.
Who remembers Dr. McLaury?
I do.
Oh, sure. All right, so I was joking that I was conceived in the city of Hollywood on a very cold winter's night when my mom and dad used to come and vacation and owned a second home, because in the 1950s, I guess it was very affluent at that time, and people owned a home up in the Northeast and then owned a home here, and they were here anticipating a move to Hollywood. So I've lived here my whole life, I mean, since I was 6 months old. And we lived at 2206 Fillmore Street. I like to think that we were poor, although my father says we were never poor. And he built in the old section of Hollywood. He built in the Hollywood Lake section, mostly Hollywood Hills and in Emerald Hills. And they were good, hard-working people, and they're also married 70 years. Designated Hollywood historians by the Broward County Historical Commission about 5 or 6 years ago. And it's a great blessing to be a part of Hollywood. And I've loved every minute of being here. I never really left. I went to Little Flower School, then I went to Hollywood Hills High School, which I never got over because I was supposed to go to Chaminade or St. Thomas, but I went to Hollywood Hills, and then I went to University of Miami, all about the U, number 18. Thank you. And I never left. I mean, I went down to Coral Gables and came back here to Hollywood. And I talk about my parents a lot, but it's true. My mom and dad were at a New Year's Eve party with the Revelers Club. And who was there but several members of Ellis, Spencer, and Butler, Bob Butler in particular. And does anyone remember Tinsley or Bob? Tinsley Ellis, Bob Butler, Sherwood Spencer.
I do.
And they said, well, we understand your son is graduating from law school, and we'll probably have a job for him here at our law firm when the time comes. And that was New Year's Eve, 1978, next day being 1979. And I began to work for the law firm of Ellis, Spencer, and Butler, who is the greatest law firm, I think, in the city of Hollywood. And there's no offense to Charlie Paoli, who I work with, or Angie Ware, who I did work with, or George Pilato, but I mean, they're my heroes. And they're all gone now. They've all passed away. Charlie's here. No, Charlie's here. Yeah. But Mr. Ellis, Mr. Spencer, and Mr. Butler are all gone. And I'm getting into why I'm speaking about that. So I went to work at Ellis, Spencer, and Butler, and they are my heroes, and I love them dearly, and I wish they were still here today. But as a young associate, first a law clerk, then an associate, my job was to take care of Mr. Hammerstein, Ham. We had called him Ham, because Sherwood was getting up in years, and he was slowing down. Bob Butler was so gruff and so tough and would yell at every client. I don't know how he ever kept a client, that no one would possibly give him to Ham, right?
And his secretary, too.
And then there's Tinsley Ellis, who just recently passed away. And Tinsley said, Victor, I think that I'm going to introduce you to Clarence Hammerstein. I said, well, I remember him. I said, we used to go, my parents used to take us trick-or-treating up here. And the nuns used to live up the block at the convent, and we would come here to the Hammersteins, and Ham and Vera would always be out giving candy. And I said, I think I remember him when I was a little boy. So I became the attorney for Ham, and not only his attorney, but his friend. And it was an honor and a blessing, and I miss him even though it's been 30 years since he's been gone. And Tinsley said, well, he doesn't come to the office, which was over at 1909 Tyler Street. You have to go to his house. We have a chair for you? We can get you a seat. Are you sure? We can get you another one over here. Well, Mary, you get one then. So I was designated to come here, and Vera had just passed away. So I used to come here on a weekly basis because we were doing Vera's estate, and their pictures are right over there. Because Ham didn't get out. He had to stay at home. So after a few weeks, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks, and me coming over once or twice a week as a young 22-year-old lawyer, just as handsome then as I am now. And one day, I see Ham vigorously walking up the street to go to the post office. And I said to Mr. Ellis, I said, you said that Ham can't get out. I mean, here he is walking like he's in the Indianapolis 500 going to the post office. Well, yeah, he gets around, but he doesn't want to. So long story short, I became the attorney. And we had many, many nice functions here. He introduced me to every organization that I've been here in town. It came time to either join Kiwanis or to join Rotary, and I know there's a lot of Kiwanians and Rotarians here in the room, including some of our city commissioners. And Ham was not taking no for an answer. You're going to be a Kiwanian. They're the best, they're the oldest, and you're going to... And we all do the same thing. It's all for charity, it's all for the families and the kids, but I decided to become a Kiwanian. And John Causey, does anyone remember? Sure. Elsie, you must remember John Causey.
Oh, yes.
John Causey from the ice factory, and
Right, probably
yeah, and right. So John Causey was designated to come and recruit me back in 1979 to become a Kiwanian. So I became a Kiwanian. Ham was my sponsor, and I've been a member for 37 years. I'm giving my age away, and it's been one of the best experiences of my life. Ham was here. He helped found the city, and he did establish the Kiwanis Club of Hollywood along with many other organizations. He was the president. He also ran for lieutenant governor of the Florida district. That would be the highest office in our state. They called it governor or lieutenant governor. And there was a very, very bitter election, unlike ours, that back in 1930, wow, what was it, 34 or 35, when Ham was supposed to be the Florida district governor, more or less, and he lost by just a few votes. And he got over it, but it was very difficult for him to accept that. And these are the stories I've heard. They used to have their open houses every Christmas Eve, every New Year's Day. There would be an open house here, and they would have a big guest register book, I guess it's around somewhere, with the people that would attend, you know, commissioners, mayors, dignitaries, business people, doctors, nurses, I mean, everyone in town would be here. It was the event to come to in those days. And they were a very loving couple, a very devoted husband and wife. They traveled all over the world. That's what they wanted to do. Ham was a firefighter pilot back in World War I. He had many missions. He loved talking about it. And the pictures galore. And we have the Al Montella work center. What do we call it? The in the back.
Archive. Oh, the research center.
Yeah, the research center, where there's a lot of pictures to look at and to see all the different history of what Ham went through. So I became Ham's attorney and friend. He loved Italian food. Well, I happen to have an Italian mother who cooked in those days, but and I would pick him up along with my adopted honorary grandmother, Mary Boyle, and bring them over to my parents' home for Italian food. Not every week, but you know, at least once a month, more or less. And he loved every minute of it. And then I would call on a periodic basis, and I called one day and there was no answer. And we had landlines in those days. There was no cell phones back in the early to mid 1980s. And I called and called for a day or so and no answer. So I finally drove over here, and the neighbor, it's not Al Montella, what was his name? Vicella, Al Vicella, right, was here. And he said, yeah, Ham fell, and he's not doing well, we got to bring him to the hospital. So they brought him to the hospital, and he rallied, he did very, very well. And I have a lot of documents to hand out and give to President Karen. And one of them is Ham's will. And the original, of course, is filed in Broward County Courthouse. And in those days, Chris, you could get a certified copy of an original will. I have a certified copy of Joe DiMaggio's will. But now they're all sealed. You cannot get an original will anymore. But I have a certified copy of Ham's will, which I'm going to present today to Karen. And he was in the hospital, and he said, Victor, I want to change my will. And he had many charities. Everything went to charity. And he said, I left a good portion of my estate to the Kiwanis International, and I want to change it to the Kiwanis Club of Hollywood. And I said, sure. I said, Ham, I'll do it. So I immediately got on the phone with Dr. Tom Parker, the dentist, who was the president at the time. I said, Tom, Ham wants to put in Hollywood Kiwanis instead of Hollywood International. I'll be there in 1 minute. So he drove over, and we had Ham sign his codicil in the hospital. And he recovered, but he never came back home again. He ended up going to Golf Crest Nursing Home, right up the block, and he had many, many visitors. I'm sure many of you here today visited him, would bring him food, books, magazines, talk to him, and he was there for about 1.5 years, but we had to file for guardianship. So I was his guardian, and then when Ham passed away, I was his personal representative. And it was the front page of every newspaper in South Florida. We had the Sun-Tatler, we had the, we used to call it the Fort Lauderdale News then, Sun-Sentinel, and the Miami Herald. And of course, those newspapers were a lot thicker than what they are now. And the Mango Man passes away at 93 years old. And Ham was very instrumental with the Ray family from Flamingo Gardens to make several different types of mangoes. And there were quite a lot. There weren't hundreds, but there had to be close to 100 different types of mangoes that he interplanted and made different types, different taste. And a lot of these mango trees are planted all over the city today. Ham was also very instrumental in planting all the royal palms up and down Hollywood Boulevard. And Ham was very well to do. I mean, look at their home. It was a beautiful home, especially back in the 1930s. And they had no children, unlike me with 4, but that's okay. So they didn't have quite the expense. And they would buy trees, and they would plant the trees, and then they would have a dedication. We're planting this royal palm at 12th and Hollywood Boulevard in honor of the Guyson family, in honor of the Pansiera family, in honor of the florist shop. What was the name of it again?
Bouquet shop.
Right, the bouquet shop over on Hollywood Boulevard. And for anyone else who would be around at the time. And we would have the dedications. And as the years went on, we didn't really need any more royal palms. But he would rededicate the same royal palm for years and years and years, sometimes to different people. And my mom and dad were honored by Ham as the Italian parents of the year. Sorry. And we had a little ceremony over on Hollywood Boulevard dedicating a palm tree. So these are some of the stories about Ham. When he passed away, the house was beautiful, but it needed a huge, huge, huge renovation. We had made plans, and part of the reason why Ellis, Spencer, and Butler had me come was because Ham wanted to donate his house, this house, to the city of Hollywood, with one condition. He would live here tax-free. All his utilities, water, would be paid for the rest of his life as long as he was going to donate it to the city. Well, the city agreed. And I have a lot of those documents from Bill Flatley, the city manager at the time. And finally, it was all dedicated. Arthur Raymond, who remembers Arthur Raymond? Marion, of course. Everyone who's been a member for many, many years remember Arthur and Ann Raymond. They were the greatest people also, who were very, very good to me. And we were very instrumental in having this house donated to the city and becoming the now Hollywood Historical Society Hammerstein House. And our commissioners here and our mayor, our new mayor who's doing an excellent job, also supports us very, very well and are a big, big factor in the success that we're having with the Historical Society. So we cleaned up the house. My parents were here. I know the Guyasons were here. Probably many, many of you were here as well. And it took several weeks to first clean out everything. And being a Kiwanian, I think Pete DeLeo was the president. Pete DeLeo used to work for the Sun-Tatler. And Pete was the president of Kiwanis at the time. And he said, "Victor, where is our charter? Where's the Kiwanis charter? Ham has it." I said, "Well, I don't know. Ham's gone now." "Well, you go to that house and you find it." So we're looking around, and
What year are we?
this is about 1986, more or less, 84 or 86. I have the exact date written down. In my late middle age, I can't keep track of it. So the first place I looked was under the bed. Sure enough, the Hollywood Kiwanis Charter from 1925 was under Ham's bed. And he liked that better than a safety deposit box. Then we he had a beautiful service over at the old Wadlington, Cooper, and Brown Funeral Home, sorry. And that's what he wanted. I couldn't help. What can I do? And Mayor Marigolanti was just recently elected the mayor of Hollywood. And she attended the ceremony. And I had presented the funeral book several years ago with the signees on when he had passed away. So we renovated the house. Ham wanted to be cremated. Vera was cremated. And we wanted to place their ashes. Come on in.
Hello.
Saving the best for last.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Hi.
So we wanted to put Ham and Vera's ashes up here on the mantle, but they're in the back now, right? Yeah.
Here and there.
Yeah, they're in there now. Yeah. So there was just one problem. We had Ham's ashes, but we couldn't find Vera's ashes. No one knew where Vera's ashes were. So weeks and weeks and months went by. And finally, I hate to give the competition, but he's long. Mr. Wadlington called me up and he said, "We found Vera's ashes."
Thank you.
They were up in the rafters of the funeral home. I said, "Okay, let's have them." So we got them finally reunited. And that was about 1988. And then Arthur Raymond and Anne were just great. And they were also very, very heavily involved in the AARP, which we called Arthur and Anne Raymond's People. And it's just been a great ride all these years. I think it was 1990 when we finally had the house designated and the plaques went up outside. And the Hollywood Historical Society also have designated several different cities, homes here in our, mostly in our Lake District, including Little Flower Church, to be historic. And so now we're bringing up to the time when we had the ashes put up. We had the fire truck. I guess it's gone now. Yeah, the fire truck back from 1934. That was here quite a long time in the garage. And I have a 1968 Mercedes-Benz that I'm donating when there's room to put it back into the garage. And Alex Bruno, who's a realtor here in town, he's a good guy too. And is he on the board? I think Alex is on the board. Vice President now, I see. So I told Alex, I said, you know, I have the car to donate, but no one seems to want. Oh, don't worry, we'll work it out. We'll get it for you. And I'm going to look through here. They traveled a lot, and here's several of the pictures that they took that somehow I cleaned out his file. And they're from Europe, they're from different places. This is, I don't know if it's China or Taiwan. We have Japan. We have Long Island, New York. And I don't know, I don't think that's Ham. I think that's one of his relatives. This may be Ham's father. But these are back from the 18 and the 1900s. This might be Germany. I guess it's 1892. They just have 92, but I guess it's not 1992. So, Karen, I'm going to give these to you, and you can keep them there. Then they used to collect these dishes, and somehow a few of them came into my hands from Japan, Singapore, China, So we're going to keep these here.
Richard, how do you make his living?
Vera was wealthy. Vera's family was wealthy. But he did work, it's true. How could I say? I'm supposed to do. Bob, what did he do? I don't ever remember him working.
He was one of the co-founders of the Floyd Ray.
Yeah.
He was a horticulturist.
Horticulturist, yeah, with the mangoes and the flamingo gardens. But I didn't think he made much money from doing that.
On the mango, did you explain how the mango got named?
Please do.
Well, he would give the story about Adam and Eve.
That's true.
Back then, it wasn't an apple. It was a mango. So when he said to them, "You, man, go," that's how the fruit that name
It's true.
When I was Royal Palms on Hollywood Boulevard, every month when I was president, he had a country representative come in.
Correct.
We have the flags, and we would go down there and do a dedication with the Sun Patrick and the pictures. When that got worn out, we went to the city hall, and he started the 50 or 48 states back then, planting a tree going all the way around the city hall.
Right. Yeah.
One more quick thing, because I'm going to leave before
No,
you
you
go.
take your time, and then we'll open up to
As
questions.
you said, he was a fighter pilot in World War I. And anybody that knew Ham knew that he had a I said, "How did this happen?" Well, in World War I was a fighter pilot, and I was flying against the Red Baron. Okay? And we got into shooting down each other. We jumped out with our parachutes, and we were coming down, and we collided with each other, and we fought. And he bit my ear. That's the story. One last thing.
No, take your time.
Underneath the bed?
Go.
What else did you find underneath the beds and the counters all the time?
Well, I was saving that till the end, but I want you to say it. Go ahead.
He loved.
And hold on to your pockets.
He loved to collect silverware. We were at a convention in Miami Beach one time. I came in late. He got up to greet me. And I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, how you doing, Sam?" And I tapped him like that and I heard clink, clink. All the silverware on our table had been properly taken care of.
Ham and Vera were barred from many restaurants in the city of Hollywood because they were kleptomaniacs. It's true. They would take the silver. Mom, how many sugar packets and Sweet and Lows were here? Yeah, I mean, they would take anything that wasn't nailed down. And then finally, they were barred from some of the... What can you do?
He would call me up and play little tunes on the keypad of the telephone. And I had to stay there and listen to him playing this for an hour. Because I didn't want to hang up on him. You know, he was a wonderful man.
And there's a lot of his letters here, and some of Arthur Raymond, too, who was our president. And here was the board back in 1984. Mildred Kelly, Gladys Bingham, remember Gladys? Margaret Ederholt, Dr. Mickelson, and didn't she do a great job on the radio, 91.3, the past several days? Yeah, she did a wonderful job. Emily Eversole, Dr. Eversole's widow. Florence Heidkamp, Myrtle Gray, and Arthur R. Raymond. I guess, Marion, you must have been the baby.
91, I think.
You were the baby at the
This would
time.
be on the note. That's one of those.
Pat Smith, yeah, Pat was great. She was a PE teacher over at South Broward High School, and very, very instrumental in the Hollywood Historical Society. And Ham's will is here. And I'll just read a few things, and then I'll open it up to questions. Here we go. Kiwanis International Foundation, out, sorry. Hollywood Kiwanis. Mary and Ken Rhodes, Hollywood Kiwanis Scholarship Fund. Masonic Home for Masons. Springfield College in Springfield, Massachusetts, Camp Dudley in Westport, New York, American Red Cross, Indiana University, St. John's Evangelical Church in Evansville, Indiana, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the Salvation Army. So they did a wonderful, wonderful donations to all the different people, all the different organizations. First Presbyterian Church of Hollywood, Oxford College in Miami, Ohio, and the Children's Home Society. The Children's Home Society in Broward County have a very nice plaque. There's some other...
How much did he leave total?
He had about $1 million estate. I'm not breaching any confidentiality, it's public record. It was about $1 million, in those days it'd probably be about $2 or $3 million today. And then Karen, there's some more pictures here. And I was actually bringing these documents to Karen at the installation of our officers in our annual meeting in January. And Karen said, no, don't give them to me today. We want to have you for Founders Day. And we want you to make the presentation then. Come on in.
Sorry.
We're saving the best for last. The prettiest ladies are coming in. Come on.
Victor, do you know where Vera's family got their money?
No. Do you, Bob? Vera's family?
I was thinking the same.
They were from Indiana. I know that. They were from Indiana. And I believe it was some type of banking or business, but I'm not 100% sure. Who has questions that they want to ask? Yes, ma'am.
Did Ham graduate from Indiana University?
Yes, he did. He had a college degree.
They were
Yeah.
both from Indiana.
Correct.
Was Mr. Young from Indiana?
No. Where was our founder from? Joseph Young was from where? Oh, he was from Indianapolis. I wasn't sure if it was Illinois. Yeah. Who else? Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
When a house is dedicated and it belongs to the city, what does the city do to continue to uphold it and to maintain it and to keep it in pristine condition?
Well, I'm unfortunately not the commissioner, so I'll defer to... no, and I will, Ann. I'm just being funny. But you could also interject everything. The Nielsen's have to go to a memorial service. So
thank you for coming.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Take care, folks.
Once it's designated historical, you cannot knock the house down. You can make an addition as long as it's consistent with the architecture. For instance, if it's a Spanish Mediterranean like this, it would have to be consistent. If it was mid-century modern, 1950s like my house, it would have to be the same way. A lot of people choose not to have it designated historical because it's a lot more difficult to sell, you can't knock it down, although we have had many residents in the cover of night, oh, there was a terrible fire, you know.
Big flood.
Yeah, and the house is down. But you cannot put any huge improvements. And if you do, it has to be consistent. Does that help answer?
No, because I'm wondering where does the money come from to take care of this stuff?
No, for this house in particular?
Yes.
Well, he was donating it to the city.
The maintenance
But
is
to
by the
maintain-
city,
to
though.
maintain.
Yeah. The city took care of everything.
The air conditioning, the yard.
Correct. The taxes,
Oh, everything is...
everything. The yard work, I forgot about that.
We had air conditioning in here yesterday.
Yeah.
The roof leaks and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
The city takes care
The
of it.
city took care of everything.
Insurance.
But I think this was really a one-time deal for the city of Hollywood. I don't think we've ever had this before where someone donated their home And,
We'd like to get the young mansion though, if anybody would like.
Yeah.
yeah, that would be great, huh? That would be great.
And the city allows us to use the facilities, and we have tours here in the house.
Right.
We pay a very, very, very minimal dollar a year rent.
Yeah, the rent. And the lease is in there too.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, the lease is in there too. Who else? Yes, sir.
So you had mentioned that originally he left it to wanted to write it into the will to the Kiwanis
Right, international.
International, then to the city of Hollywood. But then I heard something about the arrangement where the city would pay all his water, but you had said that he wasn't even living here, he was living in a home, so I'm just a little confused.
Sure, I can explain. He did not leave the city of Hollywood in his will. He left this house. He left this house prior to his illness, prior to his death, to the city of Hollywood. The Kiwanis comes in because they were a residuary beneficiary for a percentage in his will. That's how that came in. But the city received this house. And it's still, I mean, are you giving tours?
Yes.
Yeah. So, who else? Because I think I've talked long. Yeah.
We've heard about Ham. What about Vera? Do you have any juicy stuff about her?
She was a worse kleptomaniac than Ham was.
Was she involved in the women's club? Any
She
social-
was. She was involved in all the organizations. She was a Hollywood socialite. Vera was a Hollywood socialite. She always dressed eloquently, just beautiful. Always prim and proper. She loved to travel. And that was their passion, was traveling. They didn't really drink. Vera drank a little more than Ham, quite a bit more possibly. But right, but she was very, very well known in the community with the Hollywood Women's Club, with the various Cinewics of Hollywood, and in the church, the First Presbyterian Church. And she really was an elegant, very pretty, very sophisticated lady. You must remember her.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
What did she, you said she passed away 3 years before him. What did she pass away from?
She, I think it was a heart attack. It was either a stroke or a heart attack. She was in her very early 80s, late 70s or very early 80s. I have their death certificates also for you in there. And Ham's heart was broken. His heart was broken, but he recovered, and he was very involved in our city, in Committee of 100, Kiwanis, Masonic Lodge, Elks Club. I can go on and on and on. So he became very involved. I know you had your hand.
I'm just curious, why would he want to steal, take silverware? Is that something from his growing up years? Because I know a lot of people take little sugars and that from restaurants and
Sure.
everything, but they don't take silverware or...
I guess it's a disease. I guess kleptomania is a disease of some sort. Right. And even though they didn't need it, they couldn't resist. And when Mr. Guyson and I are saying that they took silver, they took silver. Believe me.
Sets of two. Sets of two.
Yeah, they did.
One more thing.
Go ahead. And I'll get
At
you.
one of our conventions, they were always there, husband and wife sitting at the table, and I plopped down next to her. She had a beautiful piece of roast beef with gravy.
Can't hear you.
She had a beautiful piece of roast beef with gravy and mashed potatoes, all lined up that you slid right into her purse. Got a white napkin, paper napkin, and she smiled at me, she was bringing it across, and she folded it down. That's for dinner tonight.
Well, that is true, and my mom and dad can testify that when Ham got sick, and a couple of days later, I said, "Can you go over to the house and try to start helping to clean it up?" And Mr. and Mrs. Raymond were here. What did the refrigerator look like? All all full. We could not keep the refrigerator.
No.
The refrigerator had to be taken
Even the
out.
canned goods, they were so old they popped.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. It was quite a number. Peggy, you had a question?
His home in the city. He didn't leave enough money for the city to maintain.
No, he did not leave money to the city to maintain it. The city's done it on their
All
own.
right,
Yeah.
and so now do they get enough money out of having people come?
No, it's for historic, charitable, educational reasons. No, the city takes care of it without any compensation. Yes, sir.
Where were they from originally?
We just said Indianapolis, Indiana. Yeah.
Both of them.
Did we talk about the lawyer, the woman lawyer in town?
Who, Angie?
What was her name?
Angie Ware?
No, name another one.
Oh, yeah, I know the one you're thinking of. Yeah, Ella Jo Stolberg. Ella Jo Stolberg.
Yes,
Yeah.
very famous.
Karen might know more about her than I do, no?
No, that's one I didn't work for.
And Karen now works with Mark Butler over at the home tower.
Bob Butler's dad.
Ella
his
Joel was
son.
one of the primary movers to save the beach. I don't know if you remember that. The beach was being taken over by the landowner that wanted to go down to the water's edge.
Right.
He's the one that fought to get Hollywood, what do they call it, the beach.
The casino?
No, the Hollywood Beach area there.
Right.
North Beach.
North Beach.
Keep it for the public.
Where DeVito by the Sea used to be. Where now Positano stands.
Beach used to be.
Right.
Sea Beach.
Right.
Was that, did she have a son, Bill Stolberg, who became an attorney? Was an
I
attorney?
don't know that. I know she was the first woman. Angie was the second here in the city.
You
And
mentioned Dave Keating.
oh, Mayor Keating, I was top teen of the year. Commissioner Beam Fur. Commissioner Beam Fur and I were the top teens of the year. And do I have to say the year? 1974. And Mayor Keating gave us our awards. But unfortunately, we didn't have the luncheon in the city of Hollywood. We had it in the city of Hallandale. Because it was the old, what is it, South Pacific? What was the name of that?
Oh, South Pacific.
Yeah, the Polynesian restaurant where Kelly Ford was for, yeah. So
How many years he was mayor?
he was mayor for about 20 years. It was Mayor Zinkel. I remember Mayor Zinkel as a little boy, and we used to have the most wonderful parades here in the city of Hollywood. They were just great. We had the military, we had the firefighters.
Was it down Hollywood Boulevard?
Down, yeah, Hollywood Boulevard, in Midtown.
Yes, to Tropical.
Yeah, in Midtown area. And my dad would bring us, we lived on Fillmore Street, and my dad would bring us, and I was very, very little, and he'd bring a ladder. So we would all climb up the ladder so we could look over the people and see the parade. And we had colonels and generals parading down in the cars, and a lot of antique cars.
We had floats from the.
They had floats, right? And it was just beautiful. And we still have a lot of wonderful parades here in the city.
We have pictures of those back in the research center.
Right. And we still do have a lot of great parades here in the city. But it was Mayor Zinkel, and then it was Mayor Keating ran against Admiral Wolff, W-U-L-F-F. And it was a very, very heated election. And Admiral Wolff, Mayor Wolff, won by about 20 votes. Remember, Bob? And we didn't know until late in the night who was going to win. So he was mayor for 2 years. That was the term at the time, not 4 years like it is now. So then Mayor Keating ran, and he beat Mayor Wolff, and that had he was mayor for close to 20 years. Mayor Galanti was mayor quite a bit longer. She did lose one time to Sal Oliveri, who was mayor for 2 years, and then Mayor Galanti ran again when our former Mayor Bober, about 8 years ago, decided to run against her, and he won. So I don't remember the mayor before Zinkel. Does anyone? We have all the, well, Deborah, all the pictures are at City Hall, I guess, with all the years. But anyway, I talked long enough, and Deborah, did you want to say anything about the status of the city or anything that's happening now in the city of Hollywood?
I am just elated to have a historic society in our city, and I'm elated that all of you folks are contributing to it, and we just need to reach out and get a lot more younger people to do it also, and try to get that net out there. So just like with the Hollywood Women's Club, we need to do the same thing so that these organizations stay alive for years and years to come. We don't want this history to go away. Not that it'll go away, it just will be stuck in the books. But having the, the events that you do and the fundraisers that you do, to keep people aware of the importance of history is really, really important. I'm very excited about it. I'm glad to be a part of it, and I'm glad this building is here.
Great. Thank you so much. And Commissioner Case and her husband Terry, hi Terry, have been wonderful, especially down on the beach. They do our groundhog presentation every year with the swim. With everyone down in the water. When is ground? In February or March?
It's always February 2nd.
Right. And we ran a very, very friendly campaign together. In fact, I was afraid that my sister and brother-in-law were actually going to hand out some of their literature instead of mine. But I do have my 65% discount from Ocean Alley when I'm ready to go. So I think it's up to 70%
I brought you some free cards.
Okay, that's great. Anyone else? Yes, Karen. President Karen.
Yeah, I just wanted to make mention, you spoke about the Floyd, the Flamingo Gardens and his connection. We have the managing director in September of next year doing a lecture on the mangoes and Mr. Hammerstein's connection with Floyd Ray. So
Can I ask you a question?
Sure. Yes, Carol.
This is appropriate, but you really, because you have some commissioners here. Downtown Hollywood is struggling, in the restaurants, and we had free parking, and I just noticed that now that we have a new mayor, we're taking it away. And I thought that was so sad for the city of Hollywood, because you have a movie there that's really a great movie, and it's adding like a few dollars to each ticket. So I don't know if anybody else feels that.
What, the Cinema Paradiso? I like that movie theater myself.
It's really not fair to now charge parking.
All right, so let's address that. The question is that the city of Hollywood is now charging for parking. I thought it was 3 hours free.
Part of the problem.
Okay, we're going to hear it now.
Part of the problem is that a lot of the people that work downtown would park there and every 3 hours move their cars. Therefore, patrons would come and have nowhere to park, and a lot of it was instead of paying to park in the garage for $35 a month or something. And that was probably the catalyst to get it going, because the people that work downtown just would park in front of their businesses, and people couldn't get in. They say, forget about it. There's nowhere to park.
Right.
So I think that's part of the motivation.
So we're being charged now? I didn't know
It's going to
that.
start in October, I believe. They're going to be putting those lovely meters in again.
But we could still get our permit, right?
Well, you can still have it costs
I hope.
$160, I have one too. It includes the beach and downtown.
Right. So Carol, yeah, we could buy the yearly permit. I have one. Charlie has one. It's about $120 a year. It's not a bad price. And you can park anywhere. I go to the beach. When I walk on the beach, I'm sorry when I don't have my shirt on when I'm walking on the beach.
You're not supposed to.
And you could park, with that pass, you park for free down on the beach and anywhere in the city of Hollywood as long as you're a resident.
Downtown too?
Yeah, downtown, anywhere.
How long though?
As long as you want. There's no time limit. And then if you don't work, if you don't live in Hollywood, but you work in downtown or anywhere in Hollywood, you can get the employee city pass. That's quite a bit more though. That's about closer to $300. Yeah, it is a lot of money. But I do have to say, if you're a resident of Hollywood and you buy that parking pass, It's a good deal. You can park anywhere you want. Sure, I know. Sure, we have Commissioner Peter Hernandez will address the issue. Commissioner Hernandez is gonna.
It's interesting that the parking issue is what concerns you for a couple dollars whenever you go see a movie, when in fact Cinema Paradiso is being subsidized by the Beach CRA. So the city's already contributing to having that movie theater there. The problem that we were having was the people that were looking to go to the restaurants or the people that were going to buy ice cream, for example, couldn't find parking. The valet operators are gobbling up the parking. The employees of the same restaurants were gobbling up the parking, and there was no turnover. So the decision was made after looking at the system, why it was failing, and continued efforts to go and talk to the restaurant owners and letting them know, please don't have your employees park here, and to no avail.
Right.
So we apologize if a couple dollars is hurting. No. It's $1.25 an hour. So if you go see a movie, it's a couple dollars. The benefit from that we will have the turnover, and we will be able to provide more, like a shuttle, if you would, to moving people around to the parking garages. It was more beneficial to a already subsidized industry that we're providing to continue to siphon the ability for others to be able to enjoy downtown. That was the consensus from the commission as to why that happened. It was not meant to take money out of people that were looking to visit downtown. It was meant to provide parking to the people that were coming to park them. The businesses that their employees are taking the free parking, no, they didn't complain.
No, but I mean, now that being charged, I think it's going to take away customers.
It is not going to take away customers because their customers could not find a parking space to start with.
Peter, there's a question. There's a question right there.
Yes. That's okay, but I can't hear what you're saying.
I'm not trying to turn it into a commissioner's meeting either, but I just had a question about the permit since you guys brought it up. Does that include beach parking on the holidays when the prices surge to almost triple the amount sometimes?
The beach parking is a completely different animal.
We just talked about it being on the permit for $160 a year.
There is a citywide permit that includes beach parking, not necessarily on the street. The Charno Park, for example, is allowed to have beach parking residence permit. That's the only place that I know of. When it comes to the street, there is the residents of the barrier island, if you would, they are issued permit based on their residency. And that means that on each particular street, you may have so many residents that they have those parking permits only. And they're very strict as to how they're handed out.
Yeah,
It's
but
not a
if I
free-for-all.
could say something, if it doesn't say Hollywood Beach resident,
Only, yeah.
then you can park. Then I park on the street. I park usually on Jefferson.
Yeah.
To further the question was actually, does that permit cover the price surcharges on holidays?
Yeah.
There's no difference. The city doesn't surcharge on holidays. The private vendors do.
So I think don't the meters go up much higher
On the weekend.
on the weekends and holidays?
They do, but if you're a resident and I'll come to you, but I can only answer one question at a time and it's their turn. If you're a Hollywood resident and you register, your parking rate is only $2 an hour.
And Peter, Deborah wanted to
I just want to
say.
make one recommendation that the city has started an app for residents that you go online and you sign up for the app, or you can go in and do the sign up for the app. That will give you 50% off at the meters. Okay, so you might want to look into that, just like going to the city's website.
Anywhere.
Anywhere. So you want to go to the city's website and get some information about parking, but I don't really need to take parking into the Historical Society activities today. So I hope we don't have to get
Go ahead, Peter.
But this will, he is downtown, some years ago, not too far back, They took the meters away.
Why are we talking about it?
Yeah, we'll get off of it right now.
Why? The mayor went,
We're ready to... We have one.
Let me ask you a question.
so he came back.
Wait 1 second. All right, we're gonna start talking about the Historical Society. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Where are we back to? We're back to.
I think this is totally inappropriate. We're at a historical society. This gentleman has gone ahead and dedicated his, and now you've turned it
I
into.
waited my turn, ma'am.
No, ma'am, you're at the wrong place.
All right, okay. Let's finish up. And let's talk about, I'm supposed to talk about Hammerstein, and we'll talk, the commissioners are here. They'll talk to you privately. Yeah, okay. We got a couple of last questions.
Very upsetting.
I have a question.
All right.
Getting back to history.
Right.
When did they start charging people to park?
Oh, no, we're not going to stop. I'll take the next question. All right. But to answer the question, it's been ongoing ever since I was a little boy. Sometimes in the 60s there'd be free parking, sometimes there wouldn't be, then there would, and then there wasn't. But go ahead.
I don't want to put you on the spot, since you grew up in Hollywood.
Yes.
You can answer it if you want. If you don't want to answer, I understand.
Sure.
What do you think of what's happening to Hollywood now with the growth, with the tall buildings, with the ugly facade, everything? Do you have an honest opinion on that, or can't you say?
I do. Even though I'm not your commissioner, and I'm never going to be your commissioner, because I'm not running again, but I don't like it. I work at Home Tower, and I had a beautiful view of Port Everglades and Fort Lauderdale, and the golf course, and the courthouse, and green space. And now it's all blocked. And the other problem I have with it is it's very hard to drive now. I mean, it takes forever to get anywhere on US 1. I can't imagine what's going to happen once that building is complete and there's even more people.
They're
But-
changing the,
Yeah, they've been talking about it, but it's really going to happen this time. Yes.
Is that hotel on the corner, the old hotel on Hollywood Boulevard, is that a historical site?
One of the walls, one of the facades is going to be designated historic. But the building itself, with the exception, is it one facade or two? Two facades, thank you, Karen, are going to have to stand, and then the new structure will go up.
Structure's going to be built around it.
A ham question, I like that. All right.
We're about ready to go and have some cake.
She has a
whenever y'all are ready.
ham question.
As soon as she's finished, yeah.
And this will be the last one, so we can...
Okay, thank you.
Where did Vera and Ham meet and how?
Vera's father introduced Ham to Vera. And I guess it was in the 19-teens, right? Yeah, it was about in the right after World War I. Correct. And Ham's father-in-law, Vera's father, introduced them. So that's how it worked. And I just noticed some of the dishes. So these, they'll go up. Yeah, they'll go up perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been a blessing. Thank you so much. Thank you.